welcome back to the lecture series on refugee migration diaspora. So, today we are going to discuss diasporic identity through our reading of Tahnima Anam's novel A Golden Age. A Golden Age, which came out in the year 2007, is a debut novel written by Tahnima Anam. It is a well acclaimed historical fiction set against the backdrop of Mukti Juddha, also known as the Bangladesh War of Independence or the Liberation War, which took place in 1971. So, this Liberation War or Mukti Juddha forms the major backdrop against which A Golden Age is written. The birth of Bangladesh in 1971 marked a significant turning point in the South Asian history, representing the emergence of a geographically and culturally distinct entity which had previously been a part of Pakistan. So we see that in 1947, when the Indian subcontinent was partitioned and a new country, Pakistan, was born out of it. At that point, the West Pakistan and the East Pakistan were actually part of the same country, the same nation. However, subsequently, we see that language and culture based conflicts actually arise, which result in differences where the East Pakistan, the East Pakistani population had a popular sentiment that their raw materials and their manual labor were being exploited by West Pakistan, but the revenues, the benefits were, more tilted towards the West Pakistani side. So there was basically a hegemonic relationship between West Pakistan and the East Pakistani population. And this difference, this cultural linguistic difference, and also the sentiment that Urdu was being imposed on the Bengali language and culture, all these differences, these conflicts actually culminated in the Liberation War, and ultimately the result was formation of what today we have as a separate country named Bangladesh, right? So this entire novel, A Golden Age, has this birth of Bangladesh as its backdrop. And the liberation of Bangladesh, the eastern flank of Pakistan previously, its liberation was achieved through the concerted efforts of civilians, military personnel, as well as the paramilitary forces. Tahnima Anam is an award-winning British novelist, short story writer, and anthropologist who is known for her compelling narratives. She is the winner of the Commonwealth Writers' Prize. Her work has appeared in prestigious publications including Granta, the New York Times, as well as The Guardian. Anam is a trained anthropologist at Harvard, and she is well known for her Bengal trilogy comprising A Golden Age, which was a debut novel written in 2007, followed by The Good Muslim, which came out in 2011, and then The Bones of Grace, which was published in 2016. So, A Golden Age, The Good Muslim, and The Bones of Grace are the three novels which form her Bengal trilogy. She is also known for her work, The Startup Wife, which is a more recent publication in the year 2021. Her debut novel, A Golden Age, narrates the story of her female protagonist, Rehana Haq, who is a young woman from an aristocratic but impoverished Calcutta family, and it depicts her tumultuous life as a result of the civil war. Then we see that in her novel, The Good Muslim, there is a depiction of the challenges of the nation building process. The novel is known for its nuanced and very detailed depiction of the challenges, the difficulties of the nation building process and the realities of corruption and compromises that people at various levels have to make or have to face. Next, The Bones of Grace revolves around the character of Zubaida Haq, who is an adopted daughter of a native Bengali family who finds herself torn between two worlds. So, this novel explores the dual identity of an individual who has once been a part of the diasporic experience or the diasporic belonging. Zubaida Haq is torn between her loyalty towards her motherland, Bangladesh, and her attachment to America, where she completed her studies. So, Zubaida has this dual belonging and dual identification. This is what forms the major, plot line of The Bones of Grace. In A Golden Age, the story begins in the year 1959 when Rehana Haq, a young widow, loses custody of her two children, Sohail and Maya, to her brother in Lahore, West Pakistan. So the children are actually taken by the brother in Lahore. And this is happening against a backdrop where the Bengali Muslim population is increasingly trying to dissociate itself from its West Pakistani counterpart, right? So losing one's, children's custody at that point in time to family that is living in Lahore actually is an extension of this West Pakistan, East Pakistan conflict, right? It is actually, this conflict is actually seeping into, and the crack is showing at the familial level. The narrative then shifts to the year 1971 when the Bangladesh Liberation War is happening, and we see that East Pakistan is seeking independence from its Western counterpart, like I said. Rehana's children, Sohail and Maya, who are now university students, return to live with her. So there is a point in time in the late 1950s when the children had been taken to Lahore by her brother, and then when the liberation war is happening, the children come back to live with her, and they are now university students. They are quite grown up. However, the children become deeply involved in the revolution, with Sohail joining a guerrilla group and Maya assisting the nationalists as a press writer in Calcutta. As Rehana navigates her children's political commitments and ambitions, she is constantly grappling with her own feelings of loss and loyalty, especially as her family in West Pakistan, has a disapproving attitude towards their political standpoint. So, in the novel, Tahnima Anam is showing the struggle of East Pakistan while breaking away from West Pakistan, right? And although this crack does not show right at the time where the novel is beginning, we see the family is also set apart, with the children moving on to stay with their uncle in Lahore, right? And later Lahore is made into a part of another country, into Pakistan, whereas the eastern part becomes Bangladesh, right? So this struggle, this political struggle, is actually seeping into and seeping at the familial level. So Tahnima Anam shows the struggle of East Pakistan while breaking away from West Pakistan. And Rehana Haq's strong nationalistic sentiments are disapproved by her family in the West Pakistan, because here we need to understand that it is very difficult, rather impossible, to homogenize the Muslim population, the Indian Muslim population, and also difficult to homogenize the sentiments or the political inclinations and orientations of the Bengali Muslims. Some Bengali Muslim families had a very strong inclination towards the cause of Bangladesh formation. So they emphasized a separate entity and existence outside of the Urdu-centric Pakistani, West Pakistani identity, whereas there was also a small section of Bengali populace who adhered with the concept of a unified Pakistan, who still wanted to remain part of the larger, Pakistani identity, and within the umbrella definition of, Urdu-based Islamic identity. So many Bengali Muslim sections did not have this desire to break away from the Urdu-based Islamic identity that West Pakistan actually cherished and celebrated. So we see that within the Haq family, this rift is showing, while Rehana and her children have inclination for the nationalistic sentiments, formation of a separate nation, it is disapproved by the larger family. Reflecting on her life, Rehana imagines her sister's reactions to her revolutionary activities and highlights her growing connection to her homeland. So, A Golden Age is inspired by Tahnima Anam's grandmother's experiences, and it explores how historical events shape individual lives and relationships during a time of significant change. So here we have to understand the standpoint of Tahnima Anam, which is not coming from within the Bangladeshi society. She is living in a foreign country. She's part of the Bangladeshi diaspora, right? She has studied outside Bangladesh. She has grown up outside Bangladesh, and her interface with her ancestral land is through field work, through gathering data, through research, and also through family stories that come down the generations. She has heard a lot of real life experiences from her grandmother, and that's where the beginning point for the novel. That's where the novel draws its lifeblood. So the story weaves themes of passion, hope, and unexpected heroism, capturing the personal and national struggles of a society that is in complete turmoil and unrest. The novel was awarded the prize for Best First Book in the Commonwealth Writers' Prize in the year 2008. It was also shortlisted for the 2007 Guardian First Book Award. In this novel, Rihanna's journey reflects a deep exploration of identity and resilience in a turbulent socio-political landscape. Her initial feelings of alienation within her aristocratic family sets the stage for her struggle against the traditional expectations and societal norms. So, her larger family expects her and her children to deliver, to orient themselves in a certain manner in gender terms, in terms of political ideology. And it seems that Rehanna and her two children are constantly outgrowing, are constantly defying these set yardsticks, right? In terms of her femininity, in terms of her political ideology, she does not abide by her aristocratic family's values and ideals. The arranged marriage to Iqbal provides Rehanna with a glimpse of autonomy and happiness, but this is short lived. The abrupt loss of her husband plunges her into a precarious situation as a single woman with two children in a patriarchal society. So, Rehana's sense of home is intricately tied to her identity as a mother, which actually overrules her position as a nationalist. So, her disposition, her role as a mother comes to rule over her disposition and her role as a nationalist. Her life in Bangladesh is shaped by her personal experiences and familial bonds, which overshadow the broader political concerns. When Sohail and Maya, her two children, discuss the revolutionary movements with a lot of passion and fervor, Rihanna struggles to grasp the passion of it. She's struggling to actually understand her children. In the transnational order of things, the personal and communal aspects of one's identity are constantly being negotiated. So she is, at the same time, this and that. And that's how the identities are, with part affiliations, with, part disposition for different ideals. That's how humans are. We see that humans are not movements which are, in a way, which are whole, which are in their entirety. Humans are more complicated, right? Humans are more layered, more complicated, and more difficult than any movement, any political ideology, right? A family is more checkered. A family is more of a mosaic with different kinds of orientations, different kinds of debates happening within the familial level, right? So here is an extended quotation from Anam's novel. I quote, "She did not have the proper trappings of a nationalist. She did not have the youth or the appearance of the words. The correct words, though by now familiar to her, did not glide easily from her tongue. Comrade, proletariat, revolution. They were hard, precise words and did not capture Rihanna's ambiguous feelings about the country she had adopted. She spoke with fluency the Urdu of the enemy. No, Rehana did not have the exactness to become a true revolutionary. But she had realized long ago that while the children would remain fixed at the center of her life, she would gradually fade away out of theirs. Unquote. So her motherhood plays a pivotal role in defining her being, her existence, and her identity more than her nationalist, disposition or loyalty towards any kind of ideology. She is always inadequate in a way. The sum total of her does not match with the sum total of the revolution. She is always something more or less than that revolution. She does not use words like comrade and proletariat with as easily as a revolutionary, a true blue revolutionary should use them. Right, she has a very clear Urdu tongue. So she speaks Urdu with a lot of fluency. She does not have all the symptoms to become the true blue Bengali nationalist revolutionary. Right. So Rehana's ambivalence towards her home reflects the tensions that many face when personal and political identities collide, and ultimately this reveals the multifaceted nature of our belonging in any given South Asian context. So for Rehana, Bangladesh represents a landscape of motherhood, which is filled with both a possessiveness and fear, and it emphasizes the complexities of identity and belonging in a transnational world. Through Rehana's journey, Tahnima Anam explores the themes of marginalization and the struggle for agency, illustrating how personal narratives are deeply intertwined with larger national movements. In his work titled Global Matters, the Transnational Turn and Literary Studies that came out in 2010, literary critic Paul J. states, I quote, the transnational turn in literary studies began in earnest when the study of minority, multicultural, and postcolonial literatures began to intersect with work done under the auspices of the emerging study of globalization. Unquote. So, Rehana's response to the crisis lies in rewatching the different Bengali movies such as Mughal Azam, and it extends to her love for Urdu poetry, right? So she's watching a movie called Mughal Azam, which is celebrating the Mughal Empire, something that Bengali Muslim identity does not connect with immediately. So, Bengali Muslim identity does not connect with the Mughal dynasty or the Mughal lineage, which that's the kind of culture that is celebrated in her family. And she's watching the film again and again, and she has love for Urdu poetry. She has passion for Urdu poetry. So she does not fit the bill, basically. Although she has her full support for this revolution, she does not fit the bill. So, L. Shannon Jung's analysis of spatiality sheds light on the experience of women in Islamic culture, emphasizing how spatial limitations affect their identities directly. While Rihanna presents as a new Muslim woman, she is still, bound by the expectations of her deceased husband, and she often visits his grave in order to seek approval for her different decisions. This practice symbolizes her internalized constraints, the self made or the self given constraints that she cannot overcome as she navigates the complexities of independence within a traditionally defined space for women, right? So, at one level, we see the independence of Bangladesh is happening from different coercive hegemonic forces that have allegedly, dominated and suppressed the Bengali Muslim population for decades. At another level, we see the liberation and becoming of a new Muslim woman through Rehana's lens, right? And the difficulties that are associated, the problematics that are associated with this becoming. On the one hand, there are certain social expectations. On the other, she is navigating, she is constantly negotiating and trying to understand the new ways of being and identifying. So, this narrative ultimately reveals how the different ideological boundaries are posed onto us and how they can be challenged, especially when the fight for a common cause unites Rihanna with her daughter Maya. Rihanna and her family exemplify transnational figures, and they have lived in different countries, including India, West Pakistan, and then East Pakistan, which later becomes Bangladesh. So, Rihanna's brother in law, who resides in Kashmir, embodies a strong allegiance to Pakistani nationalism, the West Pakistani, the Punjabi culture, right? So, contrasting sharply with Rihanna's commitment to the Bengali nationalism as she establishes her home in Dhaka. So, we see that the fabric of the family is very mottled, very, full of multiple commitments, multiple loyalties and ideologies and inclinations. So, within the same family, we have Rihanna and her children that are committed to the Bengali nationalism. And also, Rihanna is not as committed as her children. On the other hand, we have Rihanna's brother in law, who is a strong adherent and a loyalist for the Pakistani nationalism. This tension illustrates how familial bonds can be strained by conflicting national identities. The fact that Rihanna decides to shelter an injured major who is leading the Bengali revolution, it underscores her personal stake in the larger scheme of things. As the major revives and recuperates, she listens to a few Bengali folk songs. Their lyrics change to nationalist slogans, right? So, actually, her association with this major also transforms her, gives her that kind of nationalist zeal, right? Rihanna's daughter Maya embodies the potential of a new generation of feminist leaders. She is bold, educated, and aspiring to be a journalist. As a student activist, she passionately embraced communism, even donating her clothes to cyclone victims and then adopting the signature communist style of white saris. However, Maya's progressive outlook and rebellious behavior creates a rift between her and her mother Rihanna, highlighting the tension between tradition and modernity in South Asian Muslim families. Despite her independent life and a lack of strict adherence with Parda, Rihanna is often found as being influenced by her son Sohail while taking her decisions. So she really, relies on her son Sohail while taking decisions, which reflects the traditional preference for male children in patriarchal societies in a South Asian context. This dynamic results in Rihanna viewing her daughter's ambitions, Maya's ambitions, very skeptically, struggling to accept her daughter's liberal points of view, which defy the conventional norms that are meant for Muslim women. So she is a little skeptic about Maya's modern outlook, Maya's ambitions that defy the conventional norms that are meant for or that define the Muslim woman. In a counter narrative, Rihanna's relationship with the major reveals her latent sexuality and her repressed desires as a young widow. Their secret affair allows her to experience a sense of freedom and authenticity which is unburdened by societal expectations, right? Through this connection, Rihanna is beginning to rediscover her feminine joysance, her feminine, sense of happiness, femininity through sexuality. She is trying to, rediscover her latent, dormant, sexuality and needs. Embracing, she is beginning to rediscover her latent feminine sexuality and desires, embracing her own individuality outside of the social yardsticks and expectations. However, as she becomes increasingly involved in the war effort, her motivations shift from protecting her children to asserting her own political agency. So, this is also a journey against the macrocosmic happenings. This is also the microcosmic journey of a woman, a Bengali Muslim woman, from identifying primarily in terms of her motherhood to discovering her sexuality and her own political agency within the large scheme of things, right? When the major expresses concern for her safety, she feels a sense of agitation, recognizing his attempt to assume a protective role which is reminiscent of her late husband. So she is actually beginning to assume an agential position where she is not very happy that the major wants to protect her. He's imposing his protectionist ideals on her. This paternalistic attitude and protectionist attitude clashes with her newfound independence. So Rehana's decision to rescue Sabir, despite the major's reservations, marks a pivotal moment in her journey from familial and maternal coordinates towards becoming someone at the political and social level. So she is actually claiming her stake in the larger scheme of things. So through these dynamics, Tanima Anam is powerfully illustrating how transnational experiences shape identities and resilience amid the chaos of war. After the major's visit to inquire the whereabouts of her missing children, Rihanna tells herself the following, I quote, "You are a mother?" How many times had she repeated this very phrase to herself? I am a mother. Above all things, a mother. Not a widow, certainly not a wife, not a thief, a mother. But now she was something else. A mother, yes, but not just of children, mother of a different sort. This mother knew what it was to long for her children, but she also understood the dangers of such longing. Unquote. So her identity is not just limited to her family level. She this actually implies suggests that she is now identifying with all the mothers of the revolutionaries, mothers who are actually experiencing the longing for their children, many children who would never make it back to their home. So it's not only waiting for Sohail and Maya anymore. She is actually empathizing with the feelings of so many mothers who are directly a part of the revolution, who are suffering because of the revolution. Om Prakash Dwivedi, in his work Writing Feminist Hermeneutics Through Liminality, a reading of Tahnima Anam's A Golden Age, states that the novel should be read through an alternative lens to look at ways women redefine themselves at the moment of extreme crisis. Unquote. Furthermore, by plotting the release order through Faiz, who is a prisoner, and heading to the police station alone, Rihanna transgresses the boundaries of traditional wifehood and womanhood. This act symbolizes not just her fight for Sabir's freedom, but also her struggle for liberation from the constraints that are imposed by patriarchal norms in a non secular society. By doing so, Rihanna is reclaiming her agency and challenging the long standing dominance that women face and forging a path towards self assertion and empowerment. Anam's portrayal of Rihanna challenges the dominant historical narratives which frame women merely as victims. Instead, she emphasizes their courage, resilience, and capacity for agency through a figure such as Rehana Haq. So, this perspective that Anam is bringing in here not only honors the sacrifices of women like Rehana, but also calls for a re evaluation of how history remembers and represents the female figures. Tanima Anam herself is a second generation diasporic writer, and it is interesting to note that Marian Hirst's concept of post memory is particularly relevant while reading A Golden Age. because it emphasizes how memories and experiences of one generation can profoundly influence the next. In one of her interviews, Anam revealed, I quote, "I have a complicated relationship with Bangladesh." She reveals this to The Guardian on 13th May 2016. Her own emotions find a channel through Rehana's life story. In the conversation, she also adds, "I have come to accept it's a long distance love affair." So, the acknowledgement of a long distance love affair with Bangladesh illustrates the complexities of belonging and identity faced by many in the diaspora. This thorough engagement with the subject matter enriches her narrative, making it a powerful exploration of personal and collective identity. Lynn Neary, in her article published in the morning edition, writes the following about Tahnima Anam. I quote Lynn Neary. The child of a diplomat, Tahnima Anam grew up far away from her native Bangladesh, but all her life she heard about that country's war for independence, which took place before she was born, from her Bengali parents and their friends. And when she decided to write a novel about Bangladesh, Anam says she couldn't imagine writing about anything else except the war, unquote. So, how storytelling and story listening shapes one's psyche, shapes one's understanding of the homeland when one is situated in the diaspora. Sitting in the diaspora, situated in the diaspora, she hears about the liberation war all the years while she grows up, and then she finally writes a book on Bangladesh, and the backdrop cannot be anything other than the liberation war, right? It transforms into a kind of her creative energy. We could say she channelizes her story listening into her creative energy. The above quote underscores the entangled relation between the diasporic identity and the native history, which is captured aptly in the Golden Age. Narratives like the Tahnima Anam's Golden Age frequently address the post colonial challenges of nation building, particularly through their struggles with the concept of belonging. The fluidity is often captured in these writings, which frequently address the challenges of nation building in a post colonial context. A central theme in these narratives is the concept of home, which reflects the complexities and conflicts that the diasporic community faces in defining their sense of belonging. The movement across national, cultural, and social boundaries that diasporic communities experience creates a rich transnational identities and even a rich transnational repertoire. So, with this, we come to the end of our lecture today. Let's meet with a new topic in our next lecture. Thank you.